Welcome to Airway Answers, expanding your breadth of knowledge. My name is Nicole Goldfarb, and I'm a speech-language pathologist and certified orofacial myologist. And I'm here to help you find your airway answers. We're in this together. Let's do this. Hello, everybody, and welcome. I have Dr. 𝐃𝐈𝐒𝐂𝐋𝐀𝐈𝐌𝐄𝐑 here, which is a really fun day to get Dr. Haas to pause for an hour to be with me, because this is one of the busiest guys around, right, Dr. Haas?
Well, I have a 12-year-old, so that's for sure. I know you do too, right?
Family, work life. Dr. Haas has done so much. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
So what we're going to do is I'm going to introduce who you are. And we have a lot to talk about. I want to talk about your products, your book, how you got started, and all the amazing things about you. So Dr. 𝐃𝐈𝐒𝐂𝐋𝐀𝐈𝐌𝐄𝐑 is an orthodontist, dental facial orthopedist, author, and entrepreneur on a mission to transform oral health care. He's the founder and CEO of Supermouth, a revolutionary oral care company dedicated to providing innovative, cutting-edge products for every stage of life. Dr. Haas is also the co-founder of one of Southern California's largest dental group practices and serves on the board of counselors at UCLA's School of Dentistry. He founded a nationally accredited dental assisting school and is a best-selling author of If Your Mouth Could Talk. Featured on major media outlets, he lectures at top dental conferences, emphasizing the critical connection between oral health and overall well-being. And I was reading about your book, looking at some of the reviews and information, and I like the intro about your book. It talks about you and it terms you as the modern day Renaissance man. Now, I've known you for many years. I've known you, and let's talk about how we kind of met. But before we get to that, I didn't know that you are, in addition to all of this amazing dental and business stuff, you are a classical composer and musician.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, I know. It just, I think we all have like a lot of things that we do, and music has been a huge part of my life ever since I started playing the piano when I was like, I don't know, 6, 7 years old. And even today, I write some songs. I mean, there's like kids songs, but for our oral care products, like a lot of our products have 2-minute songs, and most of them I've written it, or I've worked with some musician colleagues. So it's kind of funny. I got to tell you, Nicole, one time I was in my office, this is many years ago when I was seeing patients. And I remember I asked a kid, what do you do? Or what do you want to do when you grow up? And she said, I want to be like, I don't know, like 4 things. Like I want to be a musician. I want to be a teacher. I want to be this and this. And then her mom quickly said, no, you can't do all of them. You have to pick one. And then I actually quickly looked at mom like, actually, she can do all of them. Look, I'm a dentist. I'm a musician. I'm like, I teach. I have businesses. I'm a farmer, I have all these other things. So I kind of wanted to tell the kid, no, there are, you can do anything you want to do, and you can do all of them. And so, yeah, I feel like life is too short, and I want to do everything I want to do, so I don't regret it when I get older and say, I should have done that or could have done that. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
You are so great. I mean, keeps you so active and young. And it's funny because I see you at conferences. I saw you at the AOSH and AAPMD Collaboration Cures in Reno. The year before in Florida, and all these products you invent. I think you're very right-brained. You're very creative. So you own the Super Dentist.
Right.
How many offices do you have? How many dental offices is Super Dentist?
It's a good question. So we have 6 locations in San Diego, but we have really large offices. I think our biggest office, we have 50 dental chairs, and the smallest one, we have about 30. We have about 24% market share of all the kids in the county of San Diego go to one of our offices. And I think one of the reasons there are multiple reasons. I don't want to take the credit for, obviously I work with amazing other doctors. My wife, as you know, is a pediatric dentist. So we started our practice, nearly 30 years ago now from scratch. And, but I think over time, we really put our emphasis on creating magical experiences for children. I'll give one secret right away to you. So many years ago, when I started my practice, I thought, our practice was, growing steadily, and I thought I knew everything. But I had an aha moment when I was talking to some friends of mine who had a kid back then, and I didn't have a kid. Because back then I used to think my customers were moms, because moms were the ones who were signing the checks and were bringing the kids mostly. And as you probably know, 80% of healthcare decisions in the United States are made by women. So I had read that somewhere, and I knew that was true, because when dads bring the kids to our offices and we say, "What are you here?" They're like, "I don't know. My wife told me to be here." But moms really make all the decisions. So um, uh, I had an aha moment, and the biggest impact in my practice is when I realized actually the moms are not my clients. My customer is actually the kid. If I can take care of the kid, and I can put that kid on the pedestal and take care of them from a experience point of view, from a quality of treatment point of view, so the kid actually loves coming to the super dentist, which is our practice, and loves us. Well, of course the mom is going to be happy, and of course the dad is going to be happy. And you're a mom, when someone does something nice for us, we like them, let's just say. But if they do something nice for our kid, we go to the end of the world to tell everybody how amazing these are, like with our coaches, with our kids, teachers. And so when I realized if I can take care of this kid really well, game over. And that's really when our practice, I think, really took off. And as you know, now we're like the most dominant practice in the area.
Yeah. It's amazing. I see the super dentist car driving around on the freeway. I see on the news, on commercials, and I've been to your offices and they're unbelievable. I feel like I'm in Disneyland when I go in there. It's like it exactly is tailored toward the child. And that's actually a really good point, is if you get buy-in from your clientele, and if it's pediatrics, get the kids to love it. You've just won parent and child. You've won the family. And that's such a good point. Yeah, being a speech pathologist, I know that because we play with kids. We're playing on the floor. Your first mission is to get the kid to love to be there and to want to be there.
100%.
And that's where the neural connections happen. And that's the rest
In
is
fact,
easy.
Something you just reminded me, I don't know if you remember, but my son had some speech issues when he was little, and he came to your office. And even though we have all this stuff, I remember, I think your colleague fixed his speech issues like 2 sessions very quickly, but he kept wanting to go. You know why? Because you guys have like a treasure chest with toys, and he couldn't wait to go to your office to get it. So that's really, I remember that, because I still remind them that, you remember that you had this speech therapist, and you didn't want to stop going to her office.
Yeah,
Anyways,
it's so true.
Yeah,
toys, games, make it fun.
Absolutely.
And you've got the kids. And I remember Miss Chris at my office, who worked with your son.
That's right.
At one point I was sitting in the office next to her working with a child, and I heard the child crying, and I was like, oh no, what's happening? And they were kind of in the hallway area right outside her room, and I went out to see what was going on. The child was crying because he did not want to leave. Now imagine that. The rest is easy, right?
That's right.
So,
That's
and
what you want.
yeah, your offices are so great. They're so amazing. And you and I met, which is really funny. What year did you open the Super Dentist in Carmel Valley, which is down the street from one of my offices?
Yeah, let's see, maybe
It was like early
2014.
2000. Was it like mid 2008? Because I was opening my office the same time. And coincidentally, I mailed you information about my speech therapy practice. Coincidentally, wasn't it the day your office opened?
That's right.
And you're like, this girl's good.
I love it.
Your office is opening. So we had that connection. So
we also have additional connect. I think that was the first time we met, but I think one of the reasons you and I have become good friends and colleagues is because we both are super passionate about what we do. And I think we just kind of like, I think after, you've been doing this for less time because I'm a lot older than you, but after, in my age, and I've been doing this for about 30 years, I get up every morning around 4:30, excited to get to work. And that's very, unless you really love what you do and you're really passionate about it. So it doesn't seem like work. I just can't wait to get to my office, which I have a home office, which I spend most of my mornings at least before I've got to drop off my kid and then go to my real business work. And so, so I think the passion that you have for your profession and I have for my profession is another bonding between the two of us.
Yeah, and it's really important to recognize that a lot of people in the healthcare field, especially the dental and the airway field, have this immense passion because we know not only are we changing lives, but we really feel we're saving people's lives, whether it's the airway or the oral systemic connection. And I want to talk about that with the book you wrote.
Yeah.
But before we get there, I had sent you this quote, and this is what makes me think of you, because whenever I see you, you are smiling, you're full of energy, and you're always doing so many different things. And this is a quote: The master in the art of living makes little distinction between his work and his play, his labor and his leisure, his mind and his body, his information and his recreation, his love and his religion. He hardly knows which is which. He simply pursues his vision of excellence at whatever he does, leaving others to decide whether he is working or playing. To him, he's always doing both.
I love
Pretty
it.
great.
What a
So
powerful statement, and so true. And those of us who love what we do, we know that it's really hard to figure out. I mean, it's like you have one calendar, right? You just fill it up with stuff. You know, some of it's personal, most of it. Just like before the show started, you were asking me about my trips, and I told you like almost all of my trips are a mix of fun and also work, right? Because they're all like almost very blurry between the two of them, for sure.
work and play. And some of my favorite trips are going to conferences, being around like-minded colleagues who we can connect over what we do and also have fun. And you recently came out with the book called If Your Mouth Could Talk, an in-depth guide to oral health and its impact on your entire life. And this book is a USA Today and Wall Street Journal bestseller. In the beginning, it says, you've heard the advice. If you want to live longer, eat healthy foods and exercise daily. But there's a third piece of the puzzle, and it can add 10 to 15 years to your life. Can you talk about this piece of the puzzle in your book?
Absolutely. So I think it's really shocking, and even today, when I read about all these longevity books, or I read it online, or I talk to people in that world, they almost never talk about oral health, which is really crazy. And what I do when I talk about oral health, and I know you agree with this, I talk about it from two perspectives. One is the microbial health of the mouth. The other one is the airway and the structure of the mouth, right? Because that has a lot to do with our health as well. So it's really shocking that people don't understand the importance of oral health as it comes to everything, as it links to pregnancy health. You know, obviously this is how I wrote my book. One chapter talks about oral health, systemic health. Talk about many. I mean, it's literally linked to almost everything from many types of cancer and cardiovascular disease, diabetes, arthritis. You know, Alzheimer's. I mean, literally everything. And because of these things, obviously it impacts longevity from that perspective. But of course, airway. We know that people with severe, airway issues, they can shorten their life by 12 to 14 years and 15 years. So that just by itself can significantly impact your longevity. Like there was a Harvard study in 2018 that showed that if you do these 5 things: eat healthy, exercise, don't drink too much alcohol, have a good body weight, and don't smoke, men can add 12 years and women 14. I don't know why women always like to live longer, but just as we just discussed, just some simple things like making sure that you can breathe correctly, so you can sleep correctly, and to make sure you have a healthy good oral microbiome mix, by not overkilling your healthy microbes, and by doing just generally keeping your teeth clean and mouth clean, again, not sanitizing it and sterilizing it with the way we do it currently. And that's really where my next company came into play, which is the oral care product company, because I think we're all doing it wrong, because the result is the number one disease in the world, as you know, according to WHO. The number one disease is dental disease, cavities and gum disease. And it's 95% preventable. It's only 5%, 10% maximum that's genetic or things that are outside of our control. So it's really a shame that no one has come to the rescue. And Nicole, I don't know if you know, but I think the public always gets shocked when I tell them that in dental school or in hygiene school, we get almost zero education on oral care products. We learn nothing about what's in a toothpaste and mouthwash. So, the conventional companies on one side, and then the quote unquote natural companies, which is usually a mom in the garage mixing essential oils, which have no idea what they're doing to the oral health. They've been just creating the same toothpaste and mouthwash and floss for all these years, and the result of it is the number one disease, which is almost all preventable, is our profession. And so that was really, when I wrote the book, I ended up doing a lot of interviews, and I remember almost every interview, once I would educate either the news reporter or the public about the importance of oral health to pregnancy health, or to airway, or to sleep, or to mental health, to systemic diseases. Their first question, once they would realize how important oral health is, like, Dr. Haas, what toothpaste should we use? And what mouthwash should we use? And I would say, well, it really depends. What's your age? Are you pregnant? I wouldn't want to recommend you the same product if you're a 2-year-old with no cavities versus a 10-year-old with tons of cavities versus a teenager with braces. Someone who's pregnant, would you want to use the same toothpaste? And they would logically say no, but how would I determine what to get when I go on Amazon or Costco? And I said, yeah, there's no way to do that right now because companies are just making, if you're in the fluoride camp, anything with fluoride, doesn't matter what all these other ingredients are. And if you hate fluoride, anything that says non-fluoride, it could be toxic, it could be ice cream, whatever it is, as long as it says non-fluoride, you just get it without knowing what's the ingredients. By the way, this is not just the public, this is the dentist and the hygienist. We have no idea what are these ingredients. My start with that process was, my book was like the final chapter, if you will, no pun intended, for launching this company. But it really started when my son was born 12 years ago. I'm kind of switching, if you don't mind, to like Supermouth, our oral care product company. So when my son was born, again, I'm an orthodontist. My wife is a pediatric dentist. We had the largest group practice in Southern California, with tons of general dentists, hygienists, seeing tons of patients. And the reason I mention this is because you would think after 20 years or almost 25 years, 15, 20 years of this, I would know what toothpaste we should use on my kid when he was born. But I remember, and it was easy for me to recommend toothpaste to other people's kids or adults. But when our own kid was born and his first teeth started poking in, I remember that day I went to my wife, this is 12 years ago. I said, hey, Nazi, what toothpaste should we use for Aiden? And she said, I don't know. It was for the first time we actually really cared about what the ingredients were. So I went to Google and I started looking at the ingredients. And the more I learn about toothpaste, the more I freak out about, I don't want to put any of this stuff in my kid's mouth. And that was the beginning of my journey into the oral care products world. And I soon realized there's no one that knows anything about oral care products. There's no one. I mean, literally the science of oral care products has fallen through the cracks. We don't learn it in dental school. We don't learn it in hygiene school. Physicians obviously don't learn it. So the same manufacturers, they've been mixing the same stuff, and it's a disaster because it's literally the number one disease. And so I felt like it was such a great opportunity to really fix this once and for all. And as you probably know, I'm not the kind of person that if I'm going to do something, I don't want to just like sell a toothpaste or mouthwash. I wanted to revolutionize this area because it requires a revolution. And so it took us 12 years of really working and designing and formulating. And so we launched Supermouth last year with over 200 products and nearly 300 patents. Just to tell you the amount of commitment we've had over the last year between me and many other world-class dentists and physicians and children's experts to creating world-class products that are customized for every age and risk factors, preferences, truly safe, truly effective, and truly customized and fun and innovative. So anyway, so that's like my biggest passion right now is really getting these oral care products and our education and the entertainment part of it to every family. And we have products for kids and adults, pregnancy, orthodontics. We divide them into 6 groups. Teething, primary dentition, mixed dentition, permanent dentition, orthodontics, and pregnancy.
Wow. Okay. And those are all the categories of the oral care products
Yeah,
that are specifically tailored to that population.
that's right. So those are categories, but
Yeah.
even within those, like you, or another person your age may have different oral health risk factors
Okay.
and preferences. So those are the first 6 divisions that we do, because again, a teething person may not require the same thing as an adult or someone with braces. That's very obvious, like logically, but people have never organized it that way. I'll give you an example. Like our ortho floss has not only thicker and more spongier to go around brackets and clean around the brackets where you have the decalcifications, but it also has threaders built into it because you need to thread around brackets or like implants or bridges, things like that. What's common across all, and our regular floss doesn't, but what's common around them is the safety and efficacy. So we have no artificial ingredients whatsoever in any of our products. We use a third-party organization for safety. It's called Environmental Working Group. I don't know if you're familiar with the most unbiased organization, because there's so much bias on online and within communities. People are for fluoride or they hate fluoride. And this fluoride, the reason I bring it up is because it's such a toxic word that people, and they only know very little about it. And so they take sides instead of saying, well, this is just another drug, FDA approved drug. Like any drug, it has pluses and minuses. And if you think the pluses outweigh the minuses, then use it. If you don't want to use it, the only other alternative to fluoride is hydroxyapatite. And just like hydroxyapatite has unbelievable benefits. Like in our company, we have all the different variations because we have Again, I don't use fluoride because I don't need it to take those risks, because I don't get cavities, or I'm a low to moderate risk. My kid doesn't take it. But we don't just use non-fluoride. We use products that we have, our products, we have a patent on an ingredient called hydroxamine, which is nanohydroxyapatite, which is like liquid enamel. Think of it. What 97% of your enamel is made out of this calcium phosphate. But what our patent is about is we've added vitamin K2 and D3 to it, because calcium, as you know, requires vitamin A, D, and K2 for its absorption. As a general population in the US, we have enough vitamin A, and we don't want to really over supplement it because you could get toxicity. But 90% of the US population, I assume the rest of the world as well, we don't have enough vitamin D and vitamin K2. And without those two vitamins, we can't absorb calcium, which hydroxyapatite is. So we've added that to as an ingredient. We have that in every toothpaste we have, with or without fluoride, in every mouthwash we have, with or without fluoride, in every floss we have, with or without fluoride. Because I always tell people, just like you wouldn't brush with that toothpaste, what would you floss with that? So we added our key toothpaste ingredients infused in every floss we have. Those are some examples of why we have 200 products, because we can't just give you the same toothpaste and mouthwash or floss or toothbrush, like we have dozens of toothbrushes, because we have from these little finger toothbrushes, but they were very innovative. Like our finger toothbrush, we have a little flashlight built into the base. You can see inside the baby's mouth, a little bite place, so babies can't bite your fingers of the parents. And then for the kids, we've created this whole world of superheroes and villains, 7 superheroes and 2 villains. And then we make movies, augmented reality, comic books, music around it. Like one of our movies, The Rise of Supermouth, if you guys can Google it, and or go to our play page on our website. It was in a major film festival at the Chinese Theater in Los Angeles. It's such a heartwarming movie. It's not like an Oracle product company movie. It's actually a really beautiful movie. But of course, on the background, the kids get inspired to take care of their mouth, right? Because they learn about the power of smiling. But again, it's a very, very subtle thing. We do things subtly because the kids are really smart. They understand what we're trying to do. But if we do it subtly, they build these positive habits without forcing them on them, right? By having the products taste good and having all these supportive music. And who doesn't love music, and who doesn't like augmented reality and comic books and movies, etc.
I know I'm writing notes because I love this. The Rise of Supermouth. So that's the movie we can find online or on your website.
The Rise of Supermouth, yeah.
Okay.
Or if you go to supermouth.com and go to our play page, it's right there. Or you can go to YouTube and type in The Rise of Supermouth.
Okay, or supermouth.com. Because I remember when my kids were little, I had a lot of your DVDs, and that would help them brush their teeth, like cepilla los dientes. It had it like in multiple languages, and we'd all brush, and we just sit there and watch them. The kids loved them.
See,
and
they just love it. They love music.
We honestly I still sing that sometimes. It's really weird.
I'm gonna tell you a funny story. I was doing a TV interview, and the anchor woman, I had never met her. And this was on the news. And so, you know how on the news, like they were giving the news at their desk, and then I was sitting on a stool, and they were going to come and interview me like at the break. So she comes at the break. She says, "Hi, I'm so and so." I shook her hand, and the guy's like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then she goes like this, and they do a little introduction, and then she starts by saying, "We love our teeth and smiles." So I said, "Yes, we do." She said, "We love that." So she started singing one of our songs in our toothbrushes. She said, "Dr. Haas, you're a genius. I can't get this song out of my head because like singing it." I had never met this woman. So just to your point, these things that we as adults have forgotten, what really gets kids excited. We do it. I mean, I was a big fan of superheroes growing up. Probably why our company is called Supermouth. But I haven't forgotten. I think to your original thing, this music background that I've had, it's been so wonderful because it's kind of kept the kid in me all the time, and and kind of created this whole creativity side of me, so I can maybe help like write some script for the movies, or obviously I bring in a lot of other experts to do it. I don't do it only, but it's kind of a good background to that's why I'm like begging my son, and I'm hoping that my son will continue playing music, because it's been such a powerful piece of my world and my life. And it's been there when I'm upset, I play the piano, and I'm happy, I play the piano. When I'm excited, I play the piano. When I want to meditate, I play the piano. It's kind of it's a really, really fun hobby to have.
Such an outlet and such a right brain skill. So does your son play an instrument?
He plays the piano. He's not into it as much as I am, and that's why I'm like, he plays it. I think he's okay, He's like, but I was like, and I don't know if I was always into it. I don't think so. But at some point I got really into it when I was a kid. I remember my mom. There are four of us. My mom started all of us with piano, but I was the only one who like continued. But and as you don't know what happens in your life that you end up like liking something or pursuing something. We try to provide all those opportunities for our kids, but then they're all individual people and they gravitate towards certain
Exactly.
things.
Yeah, they're kind of who they are, and we'll let them see what
Exactly.
they evolve into. But to be a practitioner working with kids or designing products for kids, you really have to have that kid in you, right? That
Yes.
ability to play, to think from a child's mind, like what would a child be thinking? And that helps all of us so much in our fields who are working with children,
Yes.
right? It's like what would a kid be thinking? What would they be doing? What would a kid enjoy? And a lot of your super mouth products I see, on at different conferences and things like that are really so kid friendly. The attractiveness of the toothbrush. And I remember in your office, there were mirrors, and you walk over to the mirror to brush your teeth, and the mirror comes alive and starts talking to you. There's so
Exactly.
much engagement.
Yeah, I mean, for us, the superheroes and the villains, it's not like a marketing gimmick. It's just part of who we are. I mean, so like to your point, our products, like on the kids side, obviously we have adult, products too, like amazing, amazing toothbrushes and or all the full range. But the kids stuff, most of them are based on our superheroes and villains, but it's kind of really really fun because I mean it's no secret that Disney has bought every movie company, right? Why? Because they understand the power of storytelling. It's one thing to tell a kid to brush your teeth with like this random character, but because we build these stories in movies, augmented reality, store, comic book, music, merchandising, all sorts of fun stuff, the kids, when like we have many times parents post videos online or they send us videos that their kids are sleeping with our toothbrushes, or they're or after like dinner, like because we have ice cream flavors like strawberry, vanilla, chocolate, and mint. And so kids wait after dinner with a toothbrush. I'm not exaggerating. They're waiting for dessert. They think their toothpaste is their dessert. So things like that. So we've always it's not just me, of course. Like a lot of people understand that to have the kid do something, you need to get their buy-in. They need to feel like they're playing, right, and they're part of a story. And so we tell these stories through these different avenues. That's why, like, you would think, why would an oral care product company, if I want to sell a toothpaste or a toothbrush, why do I make a movie? Why do I have an augmented reality app? Because unless if I like, so when a kid is using our dragon, his name is Bristles the Brushioneer. When you watch the movie and you played with the AR and you read the comic book, you know the character, you know the story, you know his personality, you know his voice. So when you get the product, you feel like, well, this is not a dragon, this is Bristles, or we have Flossosaurus, or this is Cavatar or villain. And so I learned this just coincidentally. Again, it's just all these things come up many years ago, when like maybe 5 years into my practice, when I was thinking we had some competition coming, I told my wife, hey, Melzy, I want to make a movie. She said, what do you mean? I said, I want to make a movie. She said, what do you think? Anybody wants to watch a movie about two dentists? I said, no, I want to make it about superhero dentists. And my wife is kind of camera shy. And so I convinced her that I would only have one line for her in the movie. And so I got a few friends of mine who did like some video back then, because we had very little budget, no budget basically. And I wrote a script. And in the middle of the movie, I said that this kid breaks a tooth, and the front office person pushes a button to call the super dentist to come rescue the scene, whatever. And so that I made the movie, and it was a terrible movie because we just made it. It was like me and a couple of other people played in it. It was like our acting is terrible. And so, but I thought the idea was so good. So I finally begged my wife, and I convinced her that I would hire another anchor woman back then was my patient, an orthodontic patient. So I asked her, she brought in some of her colleagues from the TV studio, and I convinced her to do a movie for me for $12,000. This is like the whole budget of the movie with actors and So we made a movie called The Super Dentist. Actually, our name of our practice back then wasn't The Super Dentist. So we did it. And then back then I was naive enough to go and talk to a couple of local theaters in Chula Vista in San Diego. And I convinced them to show our short movie was 15 minutes or 20 minutes before The Incredibles, the original Disney Incredibles when it came out. It was Pixar, I guess, back then. And so from that moment, the next week when I went to the office, I would go see a patient and the parents would say, Dr. House, before you go, would you mind signing an autograph for us? Or can we take a picture with you? Because all of a sudden, the first one, I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, we saw you in the movie.
Oh
So
my
all of a
gosh.
sudden, I went from a boring dentist to like this superhero or like a movie act, so anyway, I found that moment, the power of storytelling. I'm like, oh, no wonder Disney is so successful. And that was the big, and so one of the things like I've done in my life is when something like that knocks on the door and it's right in my face and I see a need and I have an aha moment, I kind of pursue that. So we rebranded as the super dentist. In fact, when I first contacted the dental board, California dental board, they rejected the super dentist as the name because they said in California you can't call yourself super. And I said I had to argue with them that I'm not saying I'm superior. There's a difference. This is a superhero. We're kids practice. Long story short, I convinced them, so they allowed us to use the branding, the super dentist. And that was like a long time ago. But then I'm like, okay, this is going to be working. Then we need to actually build the whole world of superheroes and villains. It was one by one. We created these characters. First it was superheroes. Then we said we can't have a superhero world without villains. So 𝐃𝐈𝐒𝐂𝐋𝐀𝐈𝐌𝐄𝐑, and
𝐃𝐈𒒂𝐿, the cavity guy, right?
Yeah. So the story was he went to dental school and he failed dental school. Now he became a villain. Now he built the world's biggest candy factory and he drives an ice cream truck. So, and we've had a lot of fun with this over the years. We actually have created life-size characters, or we actually have superheroes in our offices. As you know, when you walk in, we have ice cream trucks that we drive around, the county. When I go to conferences, we have ice cream trucks because it's avatars giving out. It's nice because we can kind of play on that. And we as dentists don't want to give out any candy or ice cream, but avatars can.
Avatar
So
can.
we always be very conscious, obviously, of it and not go overboard. And sometimes we use sugar less, depending on the situation. But it's allowed us to have so much fun, and people appreciate it. People understand that. They appreciate that when we have a quality company, but we also have fun, then they appreciate it, right? We can't just do that stuff and not have the best oral care products in the world and not the best dental services that we do. But once we have that, then we have fun. Then people just love it and they participate. They want to be part of it. They tell their friends, and then there's no ending.
Such a lesson for everybody. Well, first off, the power of persistence, perseverance, right? You're like, I am going to have them play my movie before a Disney movie, Incredibles,
Right.
which is amazing that you got that to happen. But engagement, making whatever we do, if we're working with children, fun for our patients. And that is so important. And also, let's think about our adult patients too.
Yes.
We have to engage them. Obviously, it's not going to be with superheroes necessarily, but
Exactly.
to be able to engage our patients and not throw directives at them. But oftentimes, I think engagement is like teaching them, connecting it to them, and giving them information. And I feel like you're a fact guy. You know a lot of like percents of, you said 90% of healthcare decisions are made by moms. Like, what other facts? Do you have any other numbers, stats like that you can think off the top of your head to share about any of this, including like oral health? And
Yeah, I mean, also I tell you, I have so many numbers and statistics that's why I decided to write the book. So just to give you a quick background, I don't know, yeah. So I'll tell you quickly, like in 2 minutes, why I wrote my book or how it happened, if you like, and because it's kind of the answer to your question about statistics. So many years ago, as you know, we were first pediatrics and orthodontics, and then so many parents over the years said, "Hey, Dr. Haas, we love your practice. We bring our kids here. We trust our kids with you. What can't you see us too?" And first, for like the first 10 years, I would say, "Oh, you guys are so nice. Thank you so much." But we're in a kids practice. I thought they're just giving me a compliment. But then I realized, no, they're actually wanting it because they only have limited amount of time, limited amount of resources, babysitter, taking out their kids out of school, whatever. And so we decided, okay, we should consider seeing adults. But I didn't want to do just like we hadn't just done another kid practice. We really did something unique. I wanted to do something unique for the parents. So I figured, hey, listen, I was telling myself that if parents are going to bring their family now to me, they want me to be their advisor. I want to do everything I can for them to provide the best advice, not just for their teeth, but as a healthcare provider, because I always thought of the mouth more than just teeth, and I wanted to really be an invaluable resource for my patients and my parents. So what I did, I hired a company. Well, actually, this is what happened. I had a hearing loss, like in my right ear, like overnight. It's called sudden hearing loss. But the reason I tell you this is because part of the treatment was to go through these hyperbaric oxygen therapy session. I don't know if you ever experienced it, but you go to these capsules and they have these hyper oxygenated capsules, usually for really sick people. I was like the healthiest one. I just had this one issue, but nonetheless, I had to go to 40 hours of it. After the first hour, I'm like, you can't take any digital stuff because it explodes because it has so much pressurized. So I decided to catch up on my books because there was like, I love to read. And so I took a few books. One of the books I was reading, it talked about using market data to, you're going back to a question about using statistics and market data to educate the public instead of trying to sell them stuff. So I'm like, oh, that's such a brilliant idea. So as soon as that session was over, I contacted a couple of companies and I hired somebody to dig up every data on what keeps parents up at night. Nothing to about oral health. I wanted to know what parents worry about because I'm going to be seeing them now. So I got 300 pages of statistics data. And I was looking through it and it dawned on me that almost all of them are related back to oral health. I'll give you an example. Like one of the most common worries of parents is if their kids get bullied. But do you know what the number one reason kids get bullied about is in school? Is their mouth. From their crooked teeth to their ugly teeth, bad breath, underbites that look like they call them mean. If they have an overbite, they call them unintelligent. So the number one physical weight is number two. The number one physical reason. So wow, it's related to oral health. One of the biggest worries that people don't think about. And you know this one because it's related to airway and not sleeping. When you don't sleep and you don't have airway issues and you have sleep deprivation, sleep disorder breathing. One of the signs in kids is aggression. So bullying on both sides of the equation could be back related to oral health. The kids who bully and the kids who get picked on. That was just an example to tell you that when I studied what keeps parents up at night, I'm like, oh my God, look how much of this is related to their oral health, their kids' oral health. So that was the beginning, like how much money we spend, like how much the kids, like we want our kids to be successful. But did you know that the same two people with the same job qualifications, the person who has straight teeth in their lifetime makes $250,000 more than someone with crooked teeth.
That's wow. That's crazy. I never heard that.
Okay. That's right. So if people with good oral health are 45% more likely to get hired versus what school you go to. So in other words, having a good, healthy mouth and smile is 45% more important than if you went to Harvard or MIT or UCLA or wherever. So these things are just, so like that's another example of why oral health is so important. So so that's why I kind of wrote the book because I feel like, how do I get all these statistics to people? And I wanted to kind of tell, I know you can't just give numbers. So, then we have to kind of tell stories and patient stories. And of course, a lot of them kind of blend them together so we don't provide confidential information or patient stuff. But anyways, so that's a little bit of how the book came about and how the oral care product company came about and the practice. They're kind of like all convoluted and they work together.
It all goes together. And the book, If Your Mouth Could Talk, that has a lot of like quotes or statistics and facts in there.
Listen, I had about 600 studies at the end of my book. As you know, my editor said there's no way we're going to put 600 references in a book that's written for the public, and so we reduced it to 200. But I literally start with statistics on the first page. But again, it's not all about numbers because obviously I try to make it fun and tell a lot of little stories. And honestly, when I was writing the book, I was thinking my son is going to read this one day. So I also wrote it with some tips that I've learned as an adult. I've done a lot in my life, and I've made so many mistakes, and I've had so many failures along with successes. But I think I as an older dad, I have a lot of experience. And so I tried to put some of those, of course it was for the general reader, but a lot of tips, all the things that I've learned, a lot of things that I've learned, because I feel, someone like my kid is going to also read it. So hopefully they're not just going to learn about cavities and crooked teeth and oral health, although I don't talk, I literally don't, I think I have like 2 pages on cavities, and, I have a few pages like on oral care products, but 90% of the book has nothing to do with the stuff that you learn at your dentist's office. Is about how oral health is linked to cardiovascular, to many types of diseases, and longevity, and pregnancy health, and airway, and sleep, and mental health, which is actually one of my favorite topics, because I think as an orthodontist, one of the things that I think I get a little bit frustrated, honestly, is when a mom or dad says, Dr. Haas, isn't that just for looks? And I always have to bite my tongue and not get upset with that statement, because looks are, first of all, critically important in our society. We can't just put our head in the sand and pretend looks are not important. And your oral health and the way your mouth grows and the way an orthodontist can impact that, and your airway can impact that, and the posture of your tongue can impact that. Dramatic. I mean, other than genetics, the only other person is like, your mouth is here. For those of you who are listening, I'm kind of holding my whole face, other than my eyes and my forehead, is your mouth. Your mouth is not just these teeth. So the way your mouth grows has a dramatic impact on your airway, sleep, and the way you look. Dramatic. It changes the shape of your nose, where your upper jaw is, your fullness of your lips, your jawline. I mean, everything. It's just literally what you look like. But then it even impacts your eyes, because both psychologically, because if you have confidence, your eyes look nicer and you have more confidence, but also physically, because as you know, the parts of the infraorbital areas are still the part of the maxilla. So it literally changes the shape of your cheekbones, etc. So our oral health, it impacts the way we look, but it also impacts our confidence, or the way we think of ourselves. And I can't put a price on it. Honestly, I think confidence and your mental health is even more important than your physical health. Because what's the point of living if you're not happy and you're not living life to the fullest? I mean, when people say, how long do you want to live, I'm like, well, let's kind of put some criteria here. If I'm physically healthy and I'm really mentally healthy, then I want to live as long as possible. But so I always put mental health ahead of physical health, because I feel like we need to really be fullest on this planet and live life to the fullest and enjoy everything that we're so lucky to be alive. I mean, can you imagine what was the chances of you and me happening, and being alive, and then seeing, oh my God, this whole world has been around for billions of years. We have this short period on this planet. So why don't we just maximize it and see everything we want to see and go everywhere we want to go, and spend as much time as we can with our family and friends, and travel the world, and work as hard as we can to invent as many things as we can. And because, I mean, we don't want to waste our life. The one thing, probably that also gives me a lot of energy is that I don't want to regret anything I didn't do in my life. The things I do and I mess up and I screw up, which is a ton, I can live with those, because I learn from them, hopefully, at least maybe not the first time, the second or the third time I learn from them. But the things I don't do, I'm always going to regret it. So I'm doing as many things as fast as I can, because that last day may come anytime. And so I want to make sure I look back and say, I did it my way, and I did everything I could, and I'm happy, I lived my life to the fullest.
Man, I'll have what he's having. That's awesome. I mean, just like that. Look at you. I mean, you have the energy and the positivity, and you are making amazing things with your energy, like in these products. You're helping so many people, writing books, putting all this into such good use. And when you just talked about the faith and confidence, and how it's not just teeth, what a common mistake that a lot of traditional orthodontists might make is we're just straightening teeth. But when you talked about the whole face, Dr. Kevin Boyd, who's a pediatric dentist, airway specialist, right? Kevin Boyd, he calls it the craniofacial respiratory complex, right? It's not just dentition, but the whole craniofacial and breathing complex, and health span. So we talk a lot about not just your lifespan, but your health span. How much longer can we maintain health? Because nobody wants to be dying for 20 years, sick. We want to be healthy until as long as possible. That oral health is such a key role in our health span. Now, I'm very familiar with the airway and the structural aspects, but I'm less familiar with like the microbial aspects. Can you talk a little bit about that component?
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. By the way, Kevin and I met at a dental conference. I was speaking, and then he came to my lecture. He was like divided to go to two different. He's like, who's lecturing? I'm lecturing. Like, anyway, so he gave me his card. And I'm like, Kevin. So anyway, so we connected. That was like a long story. I'll tell you about it another time. So microbial, so oral microbiome. So let's kind of talk about it. So this is such an important discussion. I go to conferences or discussions or media interviews, and I see a lot of talk about gut, microbiome and gut health. And I always have to bring it up. I'm like, hey guys, where do you think your gut microbes come from? It's not like they go through your navel. You swallow them, right? You cannot have a healthy body. This is the opening to it. So please don't forget about the mouth. So, by the way, dentists, we're probably the worst. Our profession, I have to apologize on behalf of my profession to the society. We've been making this oral health worse. I give you an example. We use these incredibly, terrible alcoholic antiseptic mouthwashes on the market that are over the counter. That literally proudly says on the bottle, it kills 99.9% of germs.
I use that. Yeah.
You use it or you used to use
Okay,
it?
I do. And here's the thing. When I worked in a preschool for many years, we'd get sick all the time.
Yes.
And my partner at that preschool, we were both speech pathologists there. She's like, gargle with Listerine every day. You won't get sick. So whenever I feel like I'm getting sick, I massively gargle. And I know it's not good because I've had issues with that. But
Yes.
I want to hear about that because what are the
Absolutely.
other options like to help with like when you think you're getting sick or sore throat or whatever?
Actually, I'm so happy. And thank you very much, by the way, for sharing that, because these things provide these nuances that I can get into it a little bit more in detail. Like during COVID, we also had Listerine or something like that. I know antiseptic mouthwash for patients to use before we worked on them because we wanted to protect ourselves because it does kill, at least temporarily reduces the microbial load, right? But on an ongoing basis, routinely, just like think about it as antibiotic. I'm not anti-antibiotics, and antibiotics have an amazing place. I mean, thank God, Louis Pasteur discovered antibiotics. But would you want to take 2 antibiotics on a daily basis that kill 99.9% of your germs? You would die, right? I mean, you would go so unhealthy. I take antibiotics for a week if I can't avoid it. I hope. I mean, usually take decades before I have to take it. But if I have to take it, and so think of those antiseptic mouthwashes, alcoholic mouthwashes, as the most potent antibiotics there is. And so just like you would use those very, very seldomly, and only when you absolutely need it, you should use them. Your mouthwash, it's the same thing. It literally is the antibiotics for your mouth. And because the microbes in your mouth are the beginning of the microbes in your mouth, the body, you should really, really be taking care of them. So let me kind of give you a little bit more in detail. So your mouth is filled with billions of microbes, usually around 7 to 100 billion, unless you kill them with antimicrobial agents. Yeah. By the way, there's been many, many recent studies. And by the way, we have mouthwashes, but we use prebiotics. And prebiotics are agents that actually promote healthy microbes while they're reducing selectively reducing harmful ones. Because just like you think of your mouth microbes as a garden. If you have beautiful flowers, and I'm a farmer, so I can really, really attest to that. If you have beautiful flowers and plants and trees and vegetations in your garden, it's unlikely or less likely that weeds grow in that garden. If you kill all the garden, everything with acid, then there's more likely that when you don't pay attention to it, the weeds are going to grow, right? It's the same thing when you mouth. When you kill all the good microbes, then the harmful ones grow. You can just Google, because these last couple of studies were recent. There was a study a few months ago that showed that people who use these antiseptic mouthwashes, over-the-counter mouthwashes, they have a significant higher risk of heart attacks and strokes. There's been several studies on it, and I can explain to you. Then there's another study that just came out like a month ago and showed that people that use, they named Listerine, so I can actually say it, they have a significant higher risk of colon cancer and many other types of cancer. So let me give you 2 examples of why. And by the way, there's just many other reasons you don't want to do this, right? These are just 2 examples. On the first study, the reason is your mouth's microbes, the helpful microbes, which is most of them, because there are 3 types of microbes, by the way. There are beneficial ones. They're the ones who are like waiting for something to become pathogenic, but they're just like passive. And they're the bad guys. Usually your helpful microbes are really predominantly in healthy mouths, like in my mouth and most people's, when you take care of your oral health correctly. So what happens with these mouthwashes, they kill all the good microbes. Those microbes, out of the thousands of good things that they do, one of the things they do, they reduce food into a molecule called nitric oxide. And being in the airway world, you probably know what nitric oxide is. A molecule that helps with vasodilation. And so if you don't get enough vasodilation, what happens? you get a clot in the, you get, first of all, hypertension, you get high blood pressure. If you get a clot in the heart, you get heart attacks and you get a stroke in the brain. So that's one reason why using antiseptic mouthwash, it can lead to heart attacks and strokes. On the cancer thing, when you get rid of all the good microbes, then other harmful microbes, the superbugs now can start. When it says it kills 99% of germs, it leaves the 1% superbugs to overpopulate your mouth. Now you have a world of superbugs that you can't do anything. And among those superbugs are microbes like FN that have been linked to many types of cancer. Like there's been studies that FN, which is predominantly in the mouth, is one of the bad microbes, one of the pathogens, is linked to 50% of colon cancers. So that's just two examples to tell you why you shouldn't be killing your oral microbes on a daily basis. And I see this mistake on, I mean, that's one of the reasons the number one disease in the world is dental disease, because every toothpaste and mouthwash says, we kill 99%. No, we kill 99.5%. No, we kill, as if that's a good thing, as if, just like we wouldn't want to take antibiotics on a daily basis, we shouldn't. Antibiotics, reserve that for emergencies when you actually have a disease and you want to fix it temporarily, you want to use antibiotics. By the way, when I say antibiotics, it's not amoxicillin, it's antiseptic mouthwash, it's antimicrobial toothpaste, it's anything that's antimicrobial, antiseptic, antibacterial, alcohol, etc. Does that make sense? So instead of it, you want to use prebiotics like inulin, like xylitol. So what these things do, these ingredients do, they feed the harmful, what they do, they starve really harmful microbes. Like they've done, there was a systematic study in 2022 that showed, or studied over 200 xylitol studies and reviewed a handful of erythritol, which is also I like, but it's not as studied as xylitol. So these are, by the way, they're called sugar alcohols, which I hate the name because there's no sugar in them, there's no alcohol in it. It's just a natural sweetener from fruits and vegetables. But anyways, there's non-GMO version, there's GMO versions. At Supermom, we are a zero compromise company, so we use the non-GMO version of all of our ingredients. Anyway, so what they do, let's just say MS, which is one of the cavities, one of the bacteria that causes cavities, it ingests xylitol and then it can't really take up sugar, so it's starved to death. That's kind of like how it works, if you want to know the simple explanation. Inulin, it's amazing. It's a natural fiber from natural vegetations. And then the other thing is like these over-the-counter mouthwashes. Going back to that, it's so acidic. They literally are filled with artificial colors. You can see them; they're fluorescent. Alcohol, antimicrobials. They're acidic, and a ton of other artificial ingredients. Literally everything I just told you, you should never put in your mouth. A good mouthwash should be no artificial ingredients. It should have at least hydroxyapatite or something to remineralize enamel, and or fluoride if you have a higher risk patient. But if you don't want to, then at least hydroxyapatite. Prebiotics instead of antibiotics. Have an alkaline pH, which is really easy to check. You can take a pH strip, just buy this, you can get 100 of them for like $3, I think, from Amazon. And next time, no oral care products that you put in your mouth should be acidic, because that's where cavities happen. That's where gum disease happen. Below 5.5 pH is when enamels start dissolving away, you get cavities. So everything should be above 7. That's going to alkalize and balance the pH. That's an easy one to check. So when people ask me, Dr. Haas, is mouthwash good for you? I always tell them, it's like asking me, is food good for you? It really depends on what are the ingredients. They're really amazing mouthwashes. Again, we should look for these things that I just mentioned. And the ones that I just mentioned you want to avoid is artificial colors, is easy, alcohol, acid, antiseptic stuff, artificial ingredients in general, anything that burns your mouth. I mean, we're not trying to kill all our microbes. We want to nurture our healthy microbes to keep our unhealthy microbes in check.
So basically everything I did a few minutes ago was wrong, because I did because I was like, oh, my throat's feeling a little weird. So if you feel like maybe you're getting sick, is it good to gargle with one of these good prebiotic
100%.
mouthwash
100%.
that could actually help prevent getting sick, maybe?
100%. Well, let me and not just short term, but long term, because oral health is linked to systemic health. So what you don't want to do is sacrifice long term health with a short term. Again, I don't want to say never use antiseptic mouthwashes, because I've used that in my during COVID, we were having people gargle with it before we saw them to protect us really more than anybody else, because there was, you know, as you know, when you work as a dentist, like everything's, so it would reduce their viral and the microbial load. So when you're getting sick, I mean, if you think that you want to kill something in your mouth, maybe I wouldn't do that personally, because I would rather, like if you have a sore throat, gargle with, we did with one of our like prebiotics, because what it does, it kills gets rid of the bad microbes, but it promotes the healthy ones. The only way to get rid of bad microbes is to get the army of good microbes, to get them out of the way. It's not to create an environment where the good microbes can flourish, because the next time you swish with that mouthwash, then it's not going to be as effective, right? Because that 1% now is becoming more predominant. And the more and more you use these mouthwashes or antiseptic toothpaste or other products, the less likely over time that they can reverse this. I'll give you another example. When my son was born, I remember this very much, because it, you know, hit me like a brick. I was driving and he was 6 months old. My wife had mastitis. You know, we were very insistent to make sure that she gets, or he gets, breastfed. Anyways, so our doctor said that maybe we're going to put you on antibiotics, like my wife, you know, for a little bit. And I was like on the fence, because I don't like to take antibiotics if I don't have to. Again, I don't want to say don't never take it. Of course, take it. Thank God somebody created it and we have it. But I'm just don't like to take it if I can avoid it. And so I was driving, and I saw, coincidentally, a study on the news that they showed that if a kid is exposed to antibiotics the first year of his life or her life, they're like X times, I don't remember, maybe 6 times or 8 times or 10 times, I don't remember that number, more likely to become obese as an adult. So think about it. A child before age 1 gets antibiotics for any reason, or the mom gets it, and then through breastfeeding the child, and they have no idea, they do everything right, they eat healthy, they do everything like their friend or their sister or brother, and they're obese, and everybody thinks this is your fault, because, you know, what are you doing wrong? Why don't you? So it's amazing how crazy side effects of antibiotics are on us. And by the way, this is not me saying it. CDC says the number one thing that we need to worry about as society, that if we're not careful, we're going to be in a post-antibiotic era. And again, when we talk about antibiotics, we don't mean the prescription antibiotics. Even essential oils like peppermint oil, eucalyptus oil, tea tree oil, these are antibiotics. There just happens to be herbal. This is another problem when we as a profession haven't taken care of our patients. Natural people, that I always joke around that cocaine is natural. Just because if something is natural, you shouldn't be putting it in your mouth. It's neither safe or effective. Natural is just one piece of the puzzle. So essential oils, please do not put essential oils in your mouth. It's just crazy, because they're herbal antimicrobials. Like peppermint oil is the most common herbal that companies use to make the mint flavor, because they brainwash people. They want to create the illusion that the toothpaste as mouthwash is working to create this massive mint flavor. So peppermint oil not only is incredibly dangerous, on an EWG scale is a 5 out of 10 toxicity, but it can actually cause life-threatening breathing problems in children. So as an example, we use spearmint, which has no side effects. It's not as crazy burning, but it still has actually it tastes sweeter. It doesn't have that burning sensation, because we don't want to burn your mouth. We want to just, create a beautiful taste, and we don't want to actually overwhelm your taste bud, so you can actually taste your food when you eat. Anyway, so those are some examples of, again, just because something says natural or says essential oils, please do not read the ingredients. You have to learn. And again, if you don't want to listen to me because you're like, well, how do I know he's not biased? Go to an unbiased source. The most unbiased source in the world, and again, you can look into it, is EWG, ewg.org. It's an international organization, is a nonprofit, is out of Europe, and they rank every ingredient from your shampoo to toothpaste to cream, and they have thousands of studies, and they rank it very easily from 1 to 10. They give you the risk reasons why. So anything above 1, you shouldn't be using it. At Supermouth, every single ingredient in our toothpaste, mouthwash, everything, including even our hand soap, is a 1, except fluoride. Fluoride is a 2, just so you know. But it's funny, because I get, sometimes people are so biased against fluoride. They say, why do you even recommend fluoride? I'm like, well, fluoride, because on high-risk people, it outweighs the other risks that it has. And again, I don't use it, and I don't recommend it for 80% of my patients or my clients. But there is sometimes but they use PTFE on their floss. You know, some of the most common flosses on the market have Teflon or PTFE. PTFE is it's a forever chemical. It's a 10 out of 10 toxicity. But because this world is right now so much about fluoride versus non-fluoride that they ignore the most toxic thing in the body, and they're worried about fluoride, which is only a 2 out of 10. So I'm just saying that please don't let fluoride become so toxic that blinds you that you don't want to learn about everything else in the oral care products you use on a daily basis.
Yeah, everything you put into your mouth that you think is for healthcare reasons, cleaning your teeth, you know, that we need to pay attention to what's in those products. And I honestly never thought about it that much.
Yeah.
And I know there's that fluoride sort of debate. What's bad about fluoride, or what's
Great question. So, by the way, I have articles on this on our website in the Learn section. But fluoride is a drug, is a FDA approved drug. So just like any drug, you know, you take any drug, there's side effects. So let me just quickly tell you how fluoride works, and I tell you what's the only other alternative. There's no other alternative. So fluoride and hydroxyapatite are the only two ingredients that remineralize enamel. Hydroxyapatite is your natural enamel, and I get into that. And fluoride is something that's naturally occurs actually in water and many foods, in seafood. So it's a natural ingredient, because people think it's just because a bottle says natural, it shouldn't have fluoride. That's what they usually. But anyways, so fluoride, it bonds. So when your pH of the mouth reaches 5.5, so our saliva is usually 7 pH. That's the alkalinity or acidity. As soon as I eat something or I drink something, the pH goes below 5.5. As soon as it reaches 5.5, the enamel starts dissolving away, the hydroxyapatite molecules in the enamel. And then as soon as I stop eating, within 30 minutes, the pH raises, the minerals get back, what we call remineralization. As long as there's a balance between demineralization and remineralization, you don't get a cavity. In the presence of fluoride, hydroxyapatite bonds with fluoride, forms a mineral called fluorapatite. When fluorapatite gets redeposited into teeth, now the enamel is 10 times stronger. Now it at 4.5 pH gets dissolved. So it makes the teeth 10 times stronger. But it comes with a price. The price is if you ingest too much of it, it can cause fluorosis, which is the discoloration and abnormal formation of enamel. Or in severe cases, if you ingest too much of it, it can cause severe toxicity, even potentially death and neurotoxicity. So I can understand why people don't like it, and that's one of the reasons I don't like it, and I don't use it. But in small amounts, and this is important because people think it's all or none. But remember, vitamin D in small amounts after oxygen is the most important molecule for our body. The most important nutrient after oxygen is vitamin D. But if you take too much vitamin D, it'll kill you. It's the same thing with water. You can die if you drink too much water. So it's always about the amount. The amount in oral care products is very minimal. So if you don't use it, overuse it, don't swallow too much of it, and it's decently safe on older people. For kids, I don't like it very much because you can swallow it. The kids have a tendency to swallow more. And
what about like when you go to the dentist, your kids go every 6 months and they want to do a fluoride treatment?
Yeah. So that if they do a really good suction and it's local, it's better than actually the one that you have to do on a daily basis and swallow it. So I don't object to it. Again, it has to do with the risk of your child. If they do everything else and they're still getting cavities, it's better to do that than get root canals and pulling your teeth and getting crowns. Because it's not like, I always tell them, like, what is the alternative? It's like people say this good. I'm like, what is the alternative? My son says, is apple good? I'm like, yeah, it's great. But it's like, or is this other food is good? I'm like, well, if that's the only food you have right now, it's better than this other food, but it's not as good as this other food. So, but to tell you, for those people who don't want fluoride, which is a lot of people, and I don't use it, just so you know, because I don't need to, because I take care of my mouth correctly. So I don't need to get fluoride to make my teeth 10 times stronger. And I don't want the side effects. Having said that, the only alternative to fluoride is this ingredient that we invented in US 40, 50 years ago, but then we gave it away to Japan. And now, thankfully, it's coming back. Many parts of the world have already, their FDA has approved it. In US, fluoride is the only FDA-approved drug for anti-cavity, but it's coming because the avalanche of this other ingredient called hydroxyapatite is coming. So hydroxyapatite is literally what's in your teeth. So we were able to make a biomimetic version of it, like a little synthetic version, which is exactly the same molecule as your teeth. 50 years ago, so it's been around for 50 years. 40 years ago or something, they made it into a nano size, which literally mimics your enamel. So I love the nano size. There's been a ton of studies on it for 40 some years, incredibly safe and effective. It's literally liquid enamel. So it has 5 nano-hydroxyapatite specifically has 5 benefits. Fluoride has 1. Fluoride makes the teeth stronger, but has the side effects. Nano-hydroxyapatite remineralizes enamel, doesn't make it stronger, but it does puts the minerals back in the teeth. That's 1. 2, it naturally whitens your teeth. It's like resurfacing your teeth. For the same reason, it naturally reducing sensitivity of the teeth. So for people who have sensitivity, it's perfect. It buffers the enamel against cavities. So or acidic attacks, I should say, because technically FDA doesn't allow us to say it buffers against cavities. And then the 5th thing is it's so small that it sticks with microbes. It reduces plaque as effectively as this other, it's something we call chlorhexidine, which is a really strong antiseptic, which you can only use it for a certain amount of time. And so but these 5 things, you can do it. It's so safe that from infant to pregnant women to adults can use it. So we have this nano-hydroxyapatite as an amazing alternative to fluoride. So if you want toothpaste, if you're going to use toothpaste or mouthwash or floss, it has to have either of these or both of them together. You can't have a non-fluoride without knowing what's in it, because then why are you wasting your time and money just putting something in your mouth when you don't know if it could be more harmful? Because it's not going to do any good. Might potentially has all these harmful things that you're not even aware of it.
So this is, if I go to, it would be like supermouth.com, or where can I get this product?
So go to supermouth.com,
okay.
and you can let's just go to your toothpaste and we say it's non-fluoride, so you can read the ingredients. But we have nano-hydroxyapatite. We have a hydroxamine, which is our own patent version, which is vitamin K2 and D3. We have it with or without fluoride. If you're not sure if you or your kid needs it or not, fluoride, for example, we have an oral care assessment on the top. You take it. We answer 10 questions or a dozen questions, and we give you a specific recommendation for your individual needs based on your age, risk factors, and habits. This is what we would recommend, but of course, you can always override us and get whatever you want. You can buy our products individually. You can buy them in a system, which is a curated, dentist-curated group of products. You can buy them one time, or you can go on a subscription.
Okay. So just the normal person can get the products, or the dental office could get a system.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's great. When we're off, I know bunch of things because we went over on time and you have a bunch of things to do, but I need to go get the prebiotic. I never really paid attention to any of these components. I wow, I really messed up because I've been doing all the Listerine gargling and all this stuff, not really thinking about it because I just think it's all airway. No, I'm just thinking structure. But like I don't pay too much attention to that aspect of oral health. And thinking of like that microbial component, which I know is extremely important, that oral systemic connection. I hear a lot of people talk about this. So that's great information. I really appreciate all your time. And I've really learned so much more now about oral health and whole body health in terms of that microbial aspect. Thank you so much for all you do and all that you create and all that you're helping children and adults to better health. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for all the kind words. Really appreciate it. And it's been wonderful to speak with you today. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day. And we will get this message out so everybody learns this information as well. Thank you so much, Dr. Haas.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
You too.
Thank you so much for joining this episode of Airway Answers. I'm hoping some of your airway questions were answered. Please feel free to give us a rating or a comment. And if you have any further questions, you're welcome to email me at nicole@airwayanswers.info or check out our site at www.airwayanswers.info. Thank you so much and join us for the next one.